welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly pumped you're joining me today. We're diving right into the world of home food preservation, and specifically, how to find the absolute perfect beginner water bath canner for your kitchen in 2026. You know, if you've been daydreaming about those gorgeous, perfectly sealed jars of homemade strawberry jam, or crisp pickles, or vibrant tomato sauce just proudly lining your pantry shelves, but you've been feeling, well, maybe a little paralyzed by all the equipment choices out there, hey, you are in exactly the right place. Because honestly, the gear is actually the easiest part of the whole process, once you know what you're looking for.
But right off the bat, we've got to address the elephant in the room. It's probably the exact question that brought a lot of you here. Is it actually safe to can on my modern stove? I mean, so many beginners look at their sleek glass-top induction ranges and think, no way can this handle a massive, bubbling cauldron of water. People worry they're going to end up with a cracked stovetop and just an incredibly messy, very expensive disaster in the kitchen. And hey, it's a completely valid fear. But here's the good news. Your modern kitchen absolutely can handle canning. As we'll see, you just have to play matchmaker between your pot and your stove.
Okay, let's dive into this. Before we even look at the stoves themselves, we need to establish what this equipment actually is. Good news, a water bath canner is incredibly simple. It's basically just a tall pot with a tight-fitting cover and a rack inside. That rack, totally non-negotiable. It keeps your glass jars off the direct heat of the pot's bottom, which stops them from cracking. Aside from that, the pot itself simply needs to be deep enough to cover your jars with 1 to 2 solid inches of vigorously boiling water. Plus, enough headroom left over so it doesn't slop out all over your nice clean stove. And really, that's the whole shebang.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll cover the safety and science. Then, we'll look at why your stove dictates your pot. After that, we'll get right into our top 5 beginner canners. And finally, ready, set, can. We'll get you prepped for that first batch.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Safety and Science.
You know, food preservation is basically this wonderful, practical science experiment right in your kitchen, and the safety of it all really comes down to following a few fundamental rules. The absolute most important distinction you will ever learn as a beginner is the difference between water bath canning and pressure canning. Listen closely to this part. Water bath canning, which is exactly what we're focusing on today, is strictly for high-acid foods. Think fruits, jams, jellies, and pickles. At sea level, boiling water hits 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot enough to kill the molds and yeasts that cause food to spoil, and it drives oxygen out of the jar to create that satisfying vacuum seal. But, and this is a big but, low-acid foods like plain vegetables, meats, and beans, they require way higher temperatures, around 240 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, to actually be safe. To hit those temps, you absolutely need a sealed, heavy-duty pressure canner. So bottom line, you can never, ever safely process low-acid foods in a boiling water bath. Now take a look at this crucial number, 4.6. In the canning world, a pH of 4.6 is literally the magic dividing line. If a food has a pH of 4.6 or below, it's considered high acid. So why does this matter so much? Well, it all comes down to a really dangerous toxin called botulism. You see, botulism spores are incredibly picky. They actually require a low-acid, oxygen-free environment sitting right at room temperature to germinate. By making sure our food has a highly acidic pH, again below that 4.6 mark, we completely shut down those spores. We stop them from ever germinating into that deadly toxin, which is exactly what makes your sealed jars perfectly shelf-stable and totally safe to eat. But wait, what about foods that sit right on the edge of that 4.6 threshold? Things like tomatoes, figs, or white peaches, they're perfect examples of borderline foods. To safely process those in a water bath canner, you absolutely have to step in and add acid yourself to lower the pH down into that safe zone. The golden rule here? Always, always use bottled lemon juice. Not fresh. I know, fresh sounds better, right? Actually, scratch that, it's way riskier. Fresh lemons vary wildly in their acidity depending on the fruit. Bottled lemon juice, on the other hand, has a standardized, established pH level. Adding the bottled stuff guarantees you hit that safe acidity target every single time, without fail.
All right, moving right along to Section 2. Your stove dictates your pot. Let's talk hardware.
This right here is the main hardware hurdle most beginners face. You can't just go out and buy the first beautiful pot you see on a shelf. You actually have to look at what you're cooking on first. Let's break down the 3 major hazards of modern glass or ceramic smooth-top stoves. First up is weight. A standard canner holding 7 fully loaded quart jars of water and food is, frankly, incredibly heavy. Some smooth-top manufacturers set really strict weight limits, and if you exceed them, you could literally crack the glass. Not good. Hazard number 2, temperature control. A lot of glass-top stoves have this habit of cycling their heat on and off to regulate temperature. If your stove can't maintain a continuous, steady, rolling boil, you simply can't guarantee your preserves are being properly sterilized. And the third hazard is suction. Those classic speckled enamel canners you see everywhere, they often have concave, ridged bottoms. If you put one of those on a totally flat glass stove, they can actually seal themselves to the surface like a plunger and cause the glass to break just from the suction. Crazy, right?
So, the absolutely crucial point here is choosing the right dimensions completely regardless of your stove type. The single biggest mistake I see beginners make is picking a pot that looks totally big enough sitting on the counter, only to fire it up and realize their jars stick right out of the water. Your jars must sit under at least 1 to 2 inches of boiling water for the entire processing time. Plus, you need extra room at the very top so that rolling boil doesn't splash over the sides. Think about it. Since a standard quart jar is about 7 inches tall, your canner needs to be a bare minimum of 9 inches deep.
Okay, let's get to the fun part. Section 3, our top 5 beginner canners for 2026. Now that you're armed with the science and you know exactly what your stove needs, here is a quick bird's-eye view of our curated list. We've got the Granite Ware 12-piece kit in classic enamel, the Cook and Home pot in sleek stainless steel, the fully electric Ball EasyCanner, the massive 33-quart Granite Ware for those really big harvests, and a super budget-friendly stainless canning starter kit. Let's break down exactly who each of these specific setups is best for.
First up is our pick for the best overall beginner choice, the Granite Ware Enamel 12-piece canner kit. If you're cooking on a standard gas or an electric coil stove and you are starting from absolute zero, this is hands down your easiest purchase. It's a 21.5-quart classic enamel-on steel pot. It's incredibly lightweight, very inexpensive, and it's been proven to work over decades. But what really makes it the absolute best is that it arrives as a full kit. It includes the collapsible jar rack, plus the jar lifter, a canning funnel, and a magnetic lid wand. You know, all those little essential tools that beginners almost always forget until their jars are already boiling hot. It's literally one box, and boom, your whole canning day is set.
Next up is the Cook and Home 24-quart stainless steel pot. This is our top pick if you have a glass top or induction stove. Remember those smooth top hazards we were just talking about? Well, this pot solves them. It features an encapsulated, heavy, and most importantly, perfectly flat bottom. This means it sits completely flush on a glass or ceramic surface, spreading the heat evenly without any risk of that terrifying suction breakage. It's also fully magnetic, which makes it perfect for induction ranges. Now, stainless steel is a little bit more of an investment up front compared to enamel for sure, but it is vastly more durable, and it doubles brilliantly as a giant stock pot for soups or chili during the off-season.
And this brilliantly illustrates a perfect solution for those of you with small spaces or tricky stoves, the Ball EasyCanner. Let me tell you, this thing is a total game changer. It's an electric water bath canner that plugs right into your wall and just sits on your countertop. Yep, you don't even need a stove burner. It heats and holds its own steady rolling boil entirely automatically. So if you live in an apartment, or maybe you have a stove that aggressively cycles its heat, or honestly, if just the thought of moving a massive pot of boiling water across your kitchen makes you nervous, this machine takes literally all the anxiety out of your first batch.
Moving on to our fourth pick, the Granite Ware 33-quart enamel canner. This one is designed specifically for big harvests. A standard canner usually holds about 7 quart jars at a time. But let's say you're a homesteader and your garden just dumped an entire bushel of tomatoes or flats of peaches onto your counter all at once. Running just 7 jars at a time will literally keep you chained to the stove all weekend. This 33-quart behemoth has the massive capacity and the depth to process really large loads super efficiently. Just keep in mind, a pot this big is exceptionally heavy when it's completely full of water in jars, and it takes a lot longer to come to a boil. Because of that, you really need a sturdy gas or coil stove to safely support this big guy.
Finally, our fifth pick is the super budget-friendly Canning Supplies Starter Kit. If you love the all-in-one convenience of the Granite Ware kit we talked about earlier, but you strongly prefer the modern durability of stainless steel over enamel, well, this is your sensible middle ground. It gives you a standard-sized stainless pot, the crucial wider rack, and a basic entry-price tool set that includes the jar lifter and funnel. It is a fantastic, low-risk way for cautious beginners to get a complete modern setup without completely breaking the bank.
All right, we've made it to Section 4, Ready, Set, Can. Let's wrap this up.
So you now understand the basic science, you know how to match a pot to your stove, and you have your gear picked out and ready to go. I really want to leave you with a massive point of reassurance here. Picking the canner truly is the easy part of all this. The most important rule moving forward is to always rely on scientifically tested recipes. The USDA and the National Center for Home Food Preservation, they're your absolute best friends in this journey. They have rigorously tested the ingredient ratios, the processing times, and the acid levels to ensure total, absolute safety. Never just wing it or guess with an old family recipe when you're just starting out. Stick to the trusted guides, follow the instructions step by step, and I promise you, your first batch will be a totally triumphant success.
So, with the right pot perfectly matched to your stove and the science of safe preservation firmly in your grasp, the only question left to answer is, what delicious seasonal food are you going to put up in jars first? Seriously, think about it. Will it be strawberry jam or maybe some spicy pickles? Let that excitement drive you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy canning!